Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to The Naturalist Capitalist, although on Twitter I'm the Liberty Uniter right now, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. I've got David Fite, who's been a fellow pilgrim in this voyage over the last few days on Twitter and YouTube. Everything. It's been interesting, hasn't it, Dave?
It has. It's been the best week of 2021 ever.
That is true. Yeah, undeniably true.
It's been the best way to start a year that I have experienced. Like, I thought I started 2020 pretty well, but this is awesome.
Yeah. So you had me on your show, what, 2 or 3 weeks ago now? And
right. It was for the Christmas special, so very, very shortly.
Yeah, so we were talking about how the Libertarian Party doesn't get along and how we need to kind of give up this group thought mentality because we're a party of individualists. And I think even some names were brought up, like Dave Smith and Spike Cohen, if I remember correctly, like we were talking about how we wanted them to get along. And so New Year's Eve, I put out a tweet and I tagged a bunch of people in it. I tagged like Spike Cohen, Justin Amash, Dave Smith, Tom Woods, Vermin Supreme. I'm probably saying names twice here, but Dan Berman, just like a bunch of people. And I posted this video that was from Joe Jorgensen's campaign that had all those people in it. And it also had like Ron Paul in it, Nick Gillespie, John Stossel. It's just kind of like all the libertarians. And the video portrayed us as like a big happy club, which obviously hasn't been the case. And so my tweet was basically saying, let's make this happen. And then a lot of those people ended up chiming in and things just started popping from there. And we started seeing like reconciliations between people who had anger built up for months without like letting it out of the room. And, the elephant in the room hadn't been addressed. And this tweet kind of forced it. I was actually in the middle of something while my phone was blowing up. And then I just opened it up and I just couldn't believe like, oh, wow, Spike Cohen is, arguing with Dave Smith and they're, kind of putting some of this to rest. And, it was just nuts. I couldn't believe it was happening.
Yeah, I was not doing anything when that happened. So I got to watch at least the first few hours, like really intently, probably too intently. I had literally nothing going on in my life at the time. So I was just like, ooh, somebody did this. And I wasn't even partaking. I was just too busy watching it all happen. And then I retweeted it, tagged some more people to try to get a similar thing happening. And we got Cliff Maloney to argue with most of the LP about how good Yal is, which was not nearly as helpful as most of the conversations going on in yours.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's right. I forgot Cliff Maloney got involved and Justin O'Donnell and Nick Sarwark ended up in that a couple days later because I've seen him liking comments. So like everybody's in it. But what happened was kind of weird because I didn't necessarily expect anyone to really respond to that tweet. I was just putting it out there because that was kind of my energy and how I was feeling.
Right.
Then, Dave and Spike start getting into it, and it turns out like sort of civil. I mean, I was expecting it to get ugly, but they end up like saying that they have mutual respect for each other and that they take each other's points and that they are going to work together in the future. And then Jeremy and I were like directly calling out Dave, saying like, do you really think you helped this campaign? Do you really think you're an encouragement to people if you win? Or, I mean, if you end up being like a forward voice in this movement, are you going to demonize people that agree with you or work with them? And he kind of turned the conversation positive like saying, I'm going to work with these people. I think the Libertarian Party needs unity. And Jeremy and I kind of jumped on that. We were like, okay, cool. And then that's kind of when I think you started coming in and you were
Mm-hmm.
making comments and you were criticizing but also defending Dave Smith at the same time, and then criticizing and defending other people too. And I think like everyone's minds were exploding while this was all happening because we just couldn't have
Yeah.
pictured it.
The amount of times this week where I was simultaneously, I mean, like to the point where I was getting people confused and almost messaging the wrong things to the wrong people. I was arguing both for and against the exact same group or person. Like at
Right.
least 7 or 8 times this week. It's been so obnoxious, whether that's Dave or Mises, Todd, uh, Yal, Cliff. Like so many times I'm telling one person, like, no, they're not really doing everything right. Like we shouldn't just join up with them and do everything that way. We shouldn't just join the GOP and try to infiltrate and take over. That plan hasn't worked. The
Yeah.
people that are trying to use the GOP to their advantage, maybe we should let them if they're actually promoting liberty, and having to try to like, let's find a middle ground here, people, just all week. It's crazy. And sometimes I wanted to like tag the different people in the conversations and just make it one conversation. So and just let these two argue it out and me just be a debate moderator, but
Yeah.
I tried to keep it civil.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was just realizing how many misconceptions and false attacks there were coming from both sides because,
Right.
like, I think there are legitimate criticisms of Dave Smith or Yal or the Radicals or anybody, but I was kind of doing what you were doing. Like, I was defending people that I've been criticizing a lot lately. And then, yeah, kind of the same thing, like in the same discussion saying, no, they're not perfect, but no, they're not Nazis, or like, well, no, they're not communists, but no, they're not. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, you guys are kind of on the same page here. And it is working. Like I'm amazed. Like there are some people resisting it, but for the most part, it's a positive message because people like it because they haven't seen it before. They haven't seen like libertarians get along. Like that's a new phenomenon, and they're like, "Whoa, I'm kind of here for this."
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, we've gotten to see two really awesome things with coming together and kind of settling these misunderstandings. Is because when you just label people, like Dave Smith well, he's not a Nazi, but he's Nazi adjacent. I heard that a whole bunch of times. And when you just say that, nothing that you say past that is going to resonate with them. Like
Right.
no constructive criticism, nothing even positively intentional that you say against them is going to hit home because they're just going to see it as random, baseless attacks. So if you stop baselessly attacking people, you can actually call out their real faults. Like I said, yeah, like you mentioned, yeah, Dave Smith has faults, Yal has faults, I have faults, you have faults, we all do. If people are just attacking me and calling me a commie or a Nazi, I'm not going to be able to grow from their constructive criticism. And then we also see that when people aren't trying to grow and just want to be assholes and aren't part of this unity message, the trash takes itself out. We saw that twice already this week, pretty heavily. And it's great when everyone's united and somebody just acts like a dick for no reason. We can all be united in understanding that they're acting like a dick for no reason, and we're not in this team sports mentality of, oh, Maj is my guy, so I have to back him up. No, you don't. He was being
Yeah.
an asshole, and a bunch of Mises called him out, and it was wonderful to see.
Yeah, I can think of. I'm not going to name anybody, but I can think of a few situations where someone was obviously trying to stir shit up, and no one else in the group was having it, and they're just watching. And I like you said, the trash takes itself out. That's exactly what happened all those times. And um, I I I think we can run with this. Like, I don't, I think trust is going to take a while to build back up between certain people. But I think this is the prevailing message. I think that people are really sick of the bickering because they're seeing it everywhere else. They're seeing it with AOC and Jimmy Dore and TYT, and then they're seeing it with Nick Fuentes, and like, the Republican Party is just like disgusting. And so if we really have this positivity, I think it can last. I don't think this has to just be a week long.
Right. The GOP itself, the party itself, is eating itself alive right now, and then the leftist movement. Unfortunately, the DNC is more united than ever because they just reelected Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. That was a big deal for them. However, the leftist movement and the progressive movement is also eating itself alive.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll shoot arrows at AOC all day now too. Like I don't think that she is an ally for them. So I don't know if I consider like Jimmy Dore and TYT taking shots at AOC as like friendly fire, because I don't think she's an ally anymore. But it's still focusing all of their energy on shitting on AOC is not going to get Medicare for all passed if that's their goal.
Yeah, I I actually saw Spike Cohen get into that between Cenk Uygur and Jimmy Dore, which was amazing because I was like, wow, we're getting along, and Spike Cohen is attacking Cenk Uygur, instead of attacking somebody in the liberty movement. Like, this is good. Like, let's keep this going.
Right.
And I'm even seeing people that follow me on the left. They're interested in the unity thing. They're like, whoa, okay, I like this, because they're so sick of what's going on. And I think that they know that we're genuine. I think that's one of the biggest draws to the Libertarian Party for left-leaning people, is just the genuine approach. Because in my opinion, like, we're the only, I mean, we certainly have grifters, but we're the only movement that's actually genuine still, that's still like
right.
genuine.
Right. That's wholeheartedly true. Yeah, people want to label a lot of different people as grifters, but trying to make a living doing what you love isn't grifting.
Right.
I worked in politics this year. I worked for some candidates that I didn't appreciate or didn't agree with 100% or even at all, some of them. I've fed myself. Like, that's not grifting. That's like staying alive. And some people have chosen to align themselves with corporations or coalitions that sometimes make them go against what they might want to do for the sake of staying alive and living a good life. So some people make compromises, and we have to be understanding of the fact that not people aren't perfect. Like, sometimes people put themselves in situations where maybe they're getting taken advantage of by their boss, but that doesn't make them a shit person for remaining in it and feeling like they're doing something positive for the world, because they objectively still are.
Yeah. So did you watch the whole video Dave put out today?
I didn't get to. I was working, and I watched about the first half, and then work got crazy, and I disappeared from Twitter completely for like 3 hours. And just was working. So no, did not finish it. I'll go back and do that when we're done.
Yeah, so for sure watch the whole thing. What I was most impressed by is at the end he was taking comments, and he was I forget what exactly someone said, but they said some comment was like, don't bother talking with the Lolberts or something, and he was like, yeah, but guys, that's not who I was talking with. Like, these guys are genuine, and they're not, I forget how exactly he put it, but he was basically shocked at the fact that there are genuine liberty-loving libertarians who aren't in the Mises caucus, and he was willing to survey the way things are again. Like, he was willing to look at the landscape again, because just the four of us like blew his worldview on that, basically, that there could be people who are prags or whatever, who aren't into cancel culture and who will listen to people in his camp. That's what was like really eye-opening about the video to me.
Yeah, I love the fact that he wasn't afraid to say that he was wrong.
Right.
That's what I was kind of pushing for from all of these conversations. Uh, you know, I also won't name too many names, but there was multiple conversations, especially like in the replies to that original tweet, where we were trying to build bridges. All I'm asking for is like admitting that you had an incorrect opinion of people or yourself, and that needs to change, and that you need to change, and that we all need to change. Like, I needed to change for this to work. I talked shit about the Mises Caucus and Dave Smith every chance that I got. I needed to change that for this to work. Um, so I think watching Dave actually admit that it's his fault that people saw him like that, and that he was pushing that culture of divisiveness, and admitting to that part was a huge step. And then also admitting that he bought into this team sports mentality of caucus versus caucus, and that everyone on the other team is bad, and that he needed to change that too. And he fully verbalized both of those points, and it was great to see, because that's really what I want to hear from everybody in the LP, because we all are wrong about some people, and we all need to change our opinions of ourselves too.
Yeah, totally. So he kind of mentioned it in the video, so I don't feel like I'm releasing any information that shouldn't be known. But he sent us a message. I think that's important to note. Like, he sent you, me, and a couple other guys a message on Twitter, and he basically said, "I'm really impressed with the unity message you guys are pushing. I'm here for it. If you guys need to talk to me about anything, do it." And then we all sent him messages, and we were not kissing his ass. Like, we were critical of him. We were like, "Hey, dude, like, this is what people are scared of. This is what people don't like. This is what we
Mm-hmm.
think you should change." And then he wrote back to us. It wasn't just like one message and then he ignored us. Like, it was two-way conversations, and I felt like it was productive and it seemed pretty honest. And then watching the video, it seemed like he actually said some things that we told him in that message, like, "Hey, this is what people think."
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't. Some people are seeing you and me like support this move, and they think that we've sold out somehow or something. It's like,
Right.
no,
The amount of people that I have had tell me that, like, I'll wake up eventually or something like that, or I'll see the light, or and this I'll mention is not a specific response to Dave Smith. This is a lot of different people that we've brought in, because I have friends in the Mises Caucus, and so when I'm reaching out, now I'm gonna name names because this part's important. Is when I'm reaching out to people like Archie Flowers, and people are telling me, "Don't waste your time." That's not a waste of time. He's an important person,
right,
and an influential member of the LP, and he's making strides towards unity. Finally, it took a couple of days. Like, it took you a lot of, like, his problem is it's all public. It took you weeks to pry me open and be like, finally, like, okay, I'll give Dave Smith a shot. Like, it took a while. So I'm not I'm not judgmental of the people that are still holding a grudge, because there have been a lot of nasty things that have happened between groups in the LP.
right,
So I don't blame people for still holding a grudge, as long as they're moving towards getting rid of it.
right.
So, I've heard that about Dave, and like every person in the Mises Caucus. I've heard that about people in the Pragmatic Caucus, like Sarwark or Andy Craig or Archie Flowers. I've heard that about Yal. I've heard that about the Lib Sox. I've heard that about Vermin Supreme. Like, everyone's telling me, don't waste your time. I don't think this is a waste of time. We're making strides more than the LP has made in years towards a unified message. This isn't a waste of time.
Right. And I mean, it wasn't that hard either. That's the thing. It was a tweet, and then like engaging people and talking to each other, and that got us to the point where Dave Smith made a video about libertarian unity. Like, that seems like a win in my mind, like, for the amount of effort we were putting in.
When was the last time two Prags got Dave Smith to make a video about something?
Exactly.
Like, it's never happened.
Yeah. So the thing that we talked to Dave about the most in the private messaging was the takeover thing and purging. And that was the other thing that he made very clear in the video, is that he's not about purging anyone. And I've said I'm going to hold him to that, and I'm going to hold Mises Caucus to that, because that's not the vibes a lot of people have been getting from people in the Mises Caucus. So if that's true, I'm all for it. But, like, we're going to hold you to that. And he has, we told him to choose a different word than takeover, and, something that sounds more inclusive. And his reasoning for takeover was that it's inspirational, and, he's there to get people who are hardcore on board. He's not about the fuzzy feeling whatever. And we said, okay, but if you are going to use the word takeover, you need to make it very clear that you're not expelling anyone. And in that video, he did say that takeover means bringing people in who care about liberty and turning the Libertarian Party into something. And to be honest, that's something that I've said in the past, like, because the Libertarian Party kind of sucks. I mean, they've never done anything meaningful other than, Justin Amash joining. Like, that was the biggest thing they've done. Right. So, like, I've said that we need. I think on this show I've said we need to invade the Libertarian Party. So the takeover thing, I think that everybody should take note. And if the Mises Caucus scares you, like if you think they're too radical or they're too right wing or whatever, then recruit people to your caucus. Try to get people into the Pragmatic Caucus or the Radical Caucus or the LibSoc Caucus, whatever it is. Like, if you
Waffle House Caucus.
Yeah, anything. Screw it. I mean, I look at this as an impetus for growth. Like, instead of trying to thwart the Mises Caucus, because you're not going to, try to build yours more. And if we can continue down this trajectory of unity, if we can build all these caucuses up, and then whatever happens when we nominate somebody, it's a win in my mind. I mean, that's how I'm looking at it.
Right. Because if each individual group can drop this team sports mentality that makes them have to back up all of their teammates in whatever game they're in, our team isn't the caucus. Our team is the party. Right. Back up liberty lovers no matter what, but don't back up caucus members no matter what, because that's going to lead to problems. And we've seen that on a national level in the two-party system. Don't let that happen here. We need to be able to hold our own friends accountable. And I'd like to see that more from the Mises Caucus. I'd like to see that more from the Pragmatic Caucus. I think we've displayed that a little bit, with, sometimes we're in some unity building conversation over here, and then somebody's shitposting over here, and we're being assholes. And, more than once, members of our group have called out members of our group as like, this also isn't building liberty. And that's important. We need to be able to hold our own accountable, because the Prags can't hold the Mises Caucus accountable, because that looks like team sports.
Right. No, yeah, you're totally right. The other thing too is, I think there are actual grifters, and it's important to hold them accountable, and we've seen them exposed throughout this election season. One is Austin Peterson. I mean, like, in my mind, if he wants to come back, sure. But we know who you are. Like, we know what you've done. Like, calling you out for your bullshit is important. And then the other one is the redheaded libertarian. So we got to get it's TRHL official, that redheaded libertarian. Some of the stuff she's been saying lately, kind of cringe, and it's important to call those things out. And so it's like the balance of unity within the liberty movement, but also when someone does something bad, you still say, hey, whoa, no. And then if someone obviously isn't really in your movement, I think it's important to try to expose them, if that makes sense.
Right. And this also doesn't mean calling people statists or bootlickers because they're not as liberty as you.
Right.
You know, I had one exchange on Twitter last night that lasted fucking forever, but one of the biggest things that they said early on, it was a conversation about Yao, and they said, she works for Yao, why should I listen to a thing she has to say? It's like, that blew me away, because right then and there I should have known that conversation wasn't going anywhere, and it didn't go anywhere, and it lasted like 6 hours. But I don't. You were tagged in that way up at the top, so you had to have been getting all those
Oh
notifications.
yeah, I
So
just
I'm
ignored
sorry.
it mostly, but
Yeah, I should have. But that blew me away, because not listening to people that disagree with you is never going to be able to recruit anyone.
right.
Like, how is she going to become more libertarian and more liberty-minded and stop getting sucked in by the GOP's bullshit if we just write her off?
Right. Yeah. No, I the people who, I'll just put it this way, it's been very telling who is willing to talk and who's not. And I wouldn't have put my money on the same people who ended up being the way they are. I think I think I've been a little bit surprised, and um, that is a healthy realization just in general. What other preconceived notions do I have about people, not even just in politics, just in general, that I read the room that incorrectly? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was definitely a shock for me. I lost friends that I thought wouldn't go anywhere, and I gained friends that I never thought I would ever have. Um, like, you encapsulated this week perfectly. You sent me a screenshot of Dave Smith liking my joke and said, "If I had told you about this friendship 2 weeks ago, dot 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 dot." Like, so true, because I would have never thought that Dave Smith would be following me and liking it, the tweets where I make jokes about the libertarian in chief. Like,
Yeah, or that he would say your name on his show in a positive light, like if I had said
right,
that.
right. I got a full shout out on Dave Smith's live stream. Who would have I would have never have seen that coming. And then I had some of my absolute closest and dearest friends being the ones that were telling me, "Don't waste your time. This is stupid. You'll wake up eventually. The Mises Caucus is evil. Dave Smith is full of shit. Yal is poison." Like, people that I've worked with, people that have worked for me, people that I've worked for, like, people that I intended to go into business with. So it was definitely a wake up call, like you said, of like, I incorrectly read the room as well, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I've got to say, like, mad respect to you. I mean, I already had it, but seeing the way like you and Jeremy and I have been relating to people, it's been an honor to be in that trio. Let's just put it that way. Like,
Amen to that. I
yeah,
feel the exact same way, and thank you. Um, we wouldn't be doing this without you. And Jeremy also deserves a huge shout out. He's been in the trenches recruiting people right and left and changing people's minds on Twitter. This is the craziest part. We're having conversations with people we disagree with and changing their hearts and minds on Twitter.
right.
Like, I thought 2020 was full of things that would never happen. Like, this would have blown me away.
Yeah, Jeremy he's got the magic out of the three of us. Like he'll have someone swearing at him and hating him, and then like 3 tweets later, they're like his best friend and they follow him. It's just like, what did you
Yeah.
just do, dude?
Right. Well, let's give him a proper shout out here too, because he also is attempting to, or successfully at this point, forming another caucus within the LP called the Carnegie Caucus, because based off of these sales skills. He's been in the sales industry for a couple decades, and as someone that spent my entire adult life in sales as well, like that's something the LP is significantly lacking is sales skills. Like look at our candidates, half of them can't put sentences together or like make eye contact with the people that are interviewing them. Like reading off of their paper, like looking at their shoes while they're getting interviewed, or making a public appearance. Like we could use some sales skills, and Jeremy is working to help train people in that way. So props to him, because we need that shit.
We're gonna have to do a video with the 5 of us that are in that group chat. We're gonna have to you, Dave Smith, Jeremy, and Kurt and I. That would be the we've got to have a unity brainstorming video or something.
I would love to partake in that.
It would be crazy. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. But how do you think? What do you think the best way to keep this positivity going is? Just I think just like continuing the tweets and continuing the outreach, and not giving into the ad hominem attacks is the best way to go.
I 100% agree with you. I think cutting out the negativity, Twitter is so set up. Their algorithm is literally made to promote negative things. So this is going to be an active fight to, like, with ourselves and our natural reactions to things, to say this needs, like, we can't fall victim to this negative mentality. We have to continue to give people chances, keep being understanding, and remember that unity is the goal, not a takeover for your team.
Right.
Not to beat people over the head with an economics textbook until they see things exactly your way. The goal is to market to people that aren't libertarians yet, and we can only do that together, because sometimes you're going to turn somebody off, and you can now easily have a friend to be like, you know what, this guy could probably explain it better to you. And there, now we have libertarians. Sometimes Dave Smith might not have the best messaging. Now that him and Andy Craig are on better terms, he can send people his way. And Andy has an awesome message as well, and we can work together this way. So I think, we just have to keep fighting our own negative mentalities.
We've got to continue the fight for liberty, as we would say.
Oh, that was too good. That was
All right. Well,
fight for liberty and end the stupid shit.
Yeah, end the stupid shit. That's right. That's the new hashtag. That's what literally all libertarians and people outside the party can unite on. End the stupid shit. That's absolutely right. Well, everyone, check in on Twitter. Keep watching me and Dave. I'll put a link to both of our profiles. And if you're a libertarian, keep the unity message going, because if we want to recruit more to our movement, we've got to get along first, and we're making strides in that direction. So, Dave, we'll have you on again soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.